Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Coming on the show today, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa says vaccine troubles may set Africa back 5 years. Congo to lose 1.3 million COVID shots after delay in distribution. Central Bank of Kenya seeks 30 billion shillings in budget support through Treasury bond sale. We begin with the markets. Markets that we track in Africa were positive. South Africa's GSE rose 0.41%, while Nigeria's index ended Monday's session marginally positive. The EJX 30 in Egypt gained the most at intraday by 0.65%, while Kenya ended Monday's session positive. Middle East now markets in the Gulf region were mostly negative at intraday. Dubai's index was the biggest loser by 0.62%, while the Abu Dhabi index lost 0.42%. Elsewhere in the region, Saudi Arabia's index was marginally lower by 0.06%. On the flip side, the Qatari index gained 0.58%. And in Europe, stocks were mixed this morning as global markets prepare for the United States Federal Reserve's two-day meeting, which begins today. And investors digest a slew of earnings. Conrad has more updates from Europe. Hello, Conrad. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me back on Channels TV. It's great to be here.
Good to have you too. Well, Credit Suisse is facing a board shakeup, and HSBC and UBS have come out with earning reports. How hard has the Achalos affair hit these banks and others?
Well, it's really having a bit of an effect on the talk among traders. The banks have reported strong earnings, 79%. The net profit of HSBC is up. UBS reported higher profits for the first quarter, despite the fact that this Swiss bank, UBS, had to take a hit from the Archegos come down, this hedge fund that went problematic and caused banks so many problems, including also Credit Suisse. It had to pay 4.4 billion Swiss francs. That's around about 4 billion euros. As just, it had to take this hit to its balance sheet. That is, of course, the worst impact of this in the first quarter. For the second quarter, Credit Suisse is still expecting slight write-downs, but not as much as in the first quarter.
And Tesla had a great first quarter, and Toyota is acquiring from Lyft its self-driving cars business development. Toyota's acquisition of Lyft's self-driving unit bolsters its automation ambitions. Soon, Toyota will be on the level of Tesla and also Volkswagen, right?
Well, yeah, right. Toyota is really working on it. It is strengthening its automation department with this takeover of Lyft's self-driving technology business or the development of this. Toyota is definitely on the way to at least keep up with Volkswagen, and Volkswagen is on the way to keep up with Tesla. This is the race that's going on now. Toyota is, as you know, the biggest car maker in the world, of course, part of this. The traditional car makers try to keep both high outlet numbers, but become the leaders within the technology. We have to see whether that works. Tesla, of course, came out with its numbers. Great first quarter. The electric car makers saw a 74% increase in revenue compared to last year. Net income 438 million. That also has to do with Bitcoin. Tesla, since it allows Bitcoin to be used to pay for your Tesla, it has a large amount of this quote-unquote currency in its currency depot, and it's been selling some of it too for $272 million. Bitcoins were sold, and that contributed, of course, positively to this earnings report.
Yeah, and yesterday we talked about the issue with the chip shortage, and it's keeping everyone busy. Also, ABB, a large competitor of cement, warns about the impact of that shortage on supply and production networks. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the chip shortage is keeping everyone busy. Of course, here in Germany, the car makers first and foremost, and their production lines that they also have in many other places of the world. Mexico, Volkswagen, for example, two factories there that have, to work less or let their production lines stand still because there's not enough computer chips that can be implemented in these Volkswagen models. ABB, you mentioned it, it's a big Siemens competitor. And if ABB, of course, is talking about something like this, it is a problem. The industries believe that this problem is here to stay at least till the end of the year, if not into the year 2020. That's at least according to what some of the chip makers say, Intel and TSMC, the Taiwanese large chip maker.
Wow, that's a long problem we see there. Well, thank you so much, Conrad, and enjoy the rest of your day. Well, we move now to London, and Juliana has updates for us. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon. Good to speak with you once again today.
Good afternoon, Innie.
Yeah. So the World Health Organization chief has described the situation in India. I mean, having over 320,000 cases of COVID-19 cases in one day. He says it's beyond heartbreaking. And doctors in the UK are saying that the government has not done enough, even though we see the news that the UK has sent its first aid to India. What else do they want the government to do?
Well, to put it quite simply, Innie, more. They just want the government to do more, as has been discussed extensively across the world. India, unfortunately, is the main actor when it comes to the global COVID crisis. As you said today, over 300,000 positive COVID cases. I believe this is the 6th consecutive day in a row where they have reported cases of over 300,000. And we do know across the world, one of its strongest allies is Britain. And as you quite rightly said earlier today, the first set of aid, which I believe were ventilators, did arrive in Delhi from Britain, just 200. And I think if you try to imagine that there are over 1 billion people living in India, just 200 really is a drop in the ocean. And that's not my words. Those are the words from the British Association of Physicians of Indian origin. This is a body of 6,000 doctors in the UK. They have written to Prime Minister Boris Johnson urging the Prime Minister to do more. We know that Joe Biden said that he will be sending more vaccines to India, as well as the World Health Organization. And I know France and Canada are also doing their bit to get involved because, as we all know, COVID-19 is a global pandemic. If there is a significant deadly strain in one region, it will come to other places, which is why at the moment there is a ban on flights coming to and from India. Or in fact, actually, India is on the red list for Britain. However, there are some calls from some MPs saying flights should be banned from India. So just to remind our viewers, if a country is on a red list in Britain, then you have to quarantine in a hotel for 10 days. So it is really critical. Of course, we do know there's a huge Indian diaspora here in the UK. And I think what's making the situation even more perilous for those individuals, particularly those from the medical community, is because there are just no flights or a lack of flights going in and out at the moment. But Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, says he will do all he can to assist.
Wow, a very sad situation in India there. Well, in Britain's aviation regulator has rejected Heathrow's bid to increase airport charges to recover £2.6 billion lost during the coronavirus pandemic. What's the latest in this?
Well, the latest is Heathrow bosses are not happy. as to be expected during the pandemic, especially the travel and tourism industry. They've had really the lion's share of losses. Just to put it into context, last month there was a 92% decline in passenger numbers when you compare it to pre-pandemic levels for Heathrow. Bosses have said that they're losing £3 billion a year because they are not seeing customers coming in and out of the terminals. And they put a bid in with the Civil Aviation Authority asking if they can increase some prices to the tune of about £2 billion. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority have rejected those calls. They said that a temporarily increase in some prices, so these are hidden costs that most passengers would never know. So, for example, if you're departing Heathrow, you pay an increase on your ticket price, which I only really found out today. Heathrow did want to increase some of those costs. Some have been allowed up to about £300 million, but nothing more than that. Heathrow, of course, are really not happy. They think this goes against really what the British government are standing for in terms of making Heathrow, the standout airport across Europe, and they are struggling to survive at the moment. But yes, the call has been rejected, so Heathrow continues to suffer with these significant losses.
And how are the markets looking this afternoon?
Red, red, red. Red is the colour of the FTSE All-Share today. This is despite some pretty positive corporate updates. We spoke this morning, didn't we, about HSBC, Europe's biggest bank. Their profits in Q1 have really surged, 79%. Things seem to be going pretty well for them. They are undergoing a significant restructuring plan, shifting some of their assets into Asia, where arguably is their most profitable business. And also as well, the oil tycoon BP, they completely threw investors out of the water with their surprising gains in Q1. So it was a really good day for some of the big shots. But the FTSE is still in the red, bearing in mind we're embroiled in a political scandal in the UK at the moment. Lots of people questioning whether or not Prime Minister Boris Johnson can survive. So the FTSE All-Share is down by 5.48%. The FTSE 100 is down by 0.05%, and the FTSE 250 is down by 0.37%. In the currencies market, the British pound is up on the US dollar by 0.04%, up on the euro by 0.19%, and up on the Japanese yen by 0.27%.
All right, Juliana, thank you so much for those updates. Do take care of yourself.
Thank you.
So we move now to Asia, where shares in Asia Pacific were mixed today as concerns about the pandemic continue to linger. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 fell 0.46% to close at 28,991.89, while the Topix index declined by 0.76% to finish the trading day at 1,903.55. Meanwhile, the broader Hang Seng index in Hong Kong slipped slightly to close at 28,941.54. Mainland Chinese stocks notched higher on the day, with the Shanghai Composite 0.04% higher at 3,442.61, while the Shenzhen Component advanced 0.279% to 14,264.08. Elsewhere, South Korea's Kospi closed fractionally lower, down 0.07% at 3,215.42, while Australia's shares declined and the S&P AS 200 fell 0.17% to finish trading at 7,033.80. MCSI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific stocks outside Japan sat fractionally lower. And in the United States, stocks futures held steady in early morning trading today as investors braced for another batch of corporate earnings. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average declined 0.01%. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures both traded in mildly positive territory. Shares of Tesla fell 3% in extended trading even after the electric car maker posted record net income of $438 million. The first quarter earnings season kicks into high gear today with key companies such as Alphabet, Microsoft, Starbucks, and AMD reporting after the bell. We'll take a break now. When we come back, more stories on Business Incorporated. Welcome back. Well, we go to the commodities segment now, and our focus today is lumber. Lumber is also known as timber. It's a type of wood that has been processed into beams and planks, a stage in the process of wood production. Nigeria was once a time the largest exporter of lumber in West Africa, and the major areas of production located in the rainforest areas, such as Cross River, Edo, Ondo, Ogun, and Delta states. How is Nigeria faring in terms of demand and supply? Osato Fadaka, a research analyst at financial derivatives company, joins us now to talk about it. Hello, Osato. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So currently, there's a demand gap in the market while underbuilding and COVID further limited the supply of lumber. Interestingly, this is coinciding with the increased awareness of deforestation. Is deforestation a problem in Nigeria, and what has that got to do with the supply of lumber and timber in the country?
Yes, deforestation is a problem in Nigeria. Deforestation has to do with the transformation of wooden areas into fresh land, so that you can increase agriculture or even increase infrastructure such as roads. All these trees that are being cut down or burnt, they take about 10 to 15 years to grow. And if deforestation increases, there will be a supply gap. That means people will be demanding more, and they won't have supply to give to them. So yes, deforestation is a problem.
And in the United States, housing statistics rose strongly by 15.93% to 1.74 million in March, up from 1.5 million in July 2020. Housing starts is a trigger of demand for finishing and furniture, which in turn will increase the demand and price of lumber. What are the prospects for sustainable growth in the demand?
The demand for lumber is that of derived demand. So you need it to produce other goods such as furniture. You even need it to construct houses. And houses is one of the three basic amenities that people need. So houses will always be in demand, but the construction of new houses may decline. And even if it declines, that doesn't mean the growth in the demand of lumber will decline, because there are other products that you can use timber to produce. So yes, there's growth prospects in demand for lumber and timber.
So in Nigeria, there's available in rich amounts of lumber. However, societal unrest is a major problem in the country. Based on this, how would lumber supply and demand be affected in Nigeria and on a larger scale in Africa?
When there's societal unrest, you see a lot of investors pulling out. So you see that projects become hindered. It will slow down. The projects will slow down. And also, you see that even when these projects slow down, then when the projects slow down because of raw materials not being available, then you see that demand will be more and there will be limited supply. So people will have to they'll have to import more. They'll have to import more lumber and timber, which will increase the cost and the price.
All right, Osato, thank you so much for the information you've shared with us on Business Incorporated. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Well, we move on now. The Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa has said that a slow rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and a lack of funding to bridge the gap between poor and rich countries could set Africa back to 5 years. According to her, a lack of access to vaccines that will keep barriers to travel and business in place will also slow trade and hamper investment that could set back economic growth and prevent the creation of 26 million jobs. She adds that a lack of access to vaccines puts Africa and its densely populated cities at risk of suffering a similar fate of India, with the nation that produces the cheapest vaccines now the global coronavirus hotspot and setting records for the world's highest number of daily cases. While some African economies may have access to funds through the $650 billion in special drawing rights that the IMF is planning to give emerging and low-income nations to deal with COVID-19 and mounting debt, Misongwe warns that a failure to secure enough money could set the continent back. And in Congo, health authorities are reallocating around 75% of 1.7 million AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine doses to other African countries to make sure they are used before they get expired. A UNICEF representative says Congo received the doses from COVAX vaccine sharing facility in March, but delayed the rollout after several European countries suspended use of AstraZeneca shots in response to reports of rare blood clots. The country began its vaccination campaign in April, but had administered doses to just 1,265 people out of its population of over 85 million as of Saturday, the 24th of April. The senior health specialist for UNICEF in West and Central Africa says 1.3 million of Congo's remaining doses will now be sent to countries including Ghana, Senegal, Togo, to ensure that they are used before the expiry date, which is the 24th of June. And in Kenya, the central bank is inviting bids for reopened 15-year treasury bonds and new 25-year treasury bonds worth 30 billion shillings to raise funds to support budgetary spending. According to a prospective issued by the CBK, the 15-year treasury bonds will attract a coupon rate of 12.734% per annum, while investors will be paid a determined market rate for 25-year treasury bonds. Interested bidders must submit duly completed bond application forms to any CBK branch by 2 p.m. on the 4th of May using all available channels, including mobile or internet banking platforms. The auction date is Wednesday, May the 5th. Investors will obtain details of amounts payable for successful bids from the Central Bank of Kenya on the 6th of May. The sale began on the 23rd of April and ends on the 4th of May. We'll go to the global oil markets now. Oil prices rebounded earlier today after falling in the previous session, but gains are likely to be capped amid growing concern about fuel demand in India, the world's third biggest crude importer, now slammed with spiraling new coronavirus cases. Brent crude was up 0.6% at $66.05 a barrel after dropping 0.7% on Monday, while U.S. oil gained 0.7% to $62.31. Having declined by 0.4% in the previous session. India's woes comes as the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, led by Russia, are set to discuss policy on production at a meeting tomorrow. The OPEC Plus Joint Technical Committee has maintained a forecast for growth in oil demand growth this year, but has concerns about the surging COVID-19 cases in India and other parts of the world. And metals now. Gold prices were little change in early trade today ahead of the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary policy meeting, while palladium was pined below a record peak scaled in the previous session. Spot gold was steady at 1,780.86 per ounce, while U.S. gold futures were little changed at 1,780.10 per ounce. Palladium was steady at 2,924.93 per ounce after hitting an all-time high of $2,941 on Monday. Among other precious metals, silver fell 0.1% to $26.19 per ounce, and platinum was up 0.3% at $1,247.90. Well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching Business Incorporated. I'm Ili John Mekpa.